Hi everyone, it's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And joining me today is the wonderful and fabulous Marga Gomez. Welcome.
Hi. Oh, I'm so glad to be here at last. Hello, Krylios. You look fantastic.
Thank you so much. It's great to have you
As do
here.
I.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Marga. You look
We look good.
amazing.
We look good together, Krylios.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are great, 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 great. It is awesome to have you here with me. I'm so happy to have us start talking. So let's get into it. Let's jump into it. All right. Uh, First of all, I will begin with this. Introduce yourself to our wonderful audience and let them know more about your background and experience.
Hello, wonderful audience of the internet and beings from other planets who are listening in to Team Racing, the best show on the internet. My name is Marga Gomez, and hey, young people, you may not have heard of me, but I'm one of the first out lesbians in stand-up comedy. I was out when Ellen DeGeneres was in the closet. I started out in San Francisco in the 80s, which had a very booming LGBTQ comedy scene, and I was in the I was in the right place but at the wrong time, because that's also when we were hit with the AIDS crisis, but also a kind of activism. So my stand-up comedy has always been merged with activism through the 80s. I identified on stage as a lesbian, as a Latina. Going into the 90s, I began to create one person shows about the people in my life, my family, my Latino community. Since the 90s, I've written 14 one person shows, and I've performed them off Broadway and all over the world, really. I'm based in San Francisco, but travel all over the world. And now, since the Pan, I have learned how to live stream my work. This October, I'm going to be doing a series called Marga Gomez, 3 Decades Greatest Hits. And I'm going to be doing an interactive performance for people who can just tune in at any time. I'm doing 3 weekends and I'm doing a different show every weekend. And you can get all the information on my website, margagomez.com. And that's in a nutshell.
in in a nutshell, who Marga Gomez is. Talk to me about going through those decades and what that was like for you as a comic, as a stand-up, and especially as a woman, because many times that is different, in the industry, and you helped to kind of pave that way. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh. That is such a good point, because first and foremost, being a woman was, I think, I don't know, I think it was the biggest hurdle, because
Hmm.
women were not encouraged to do comedy. In
Mm.
fact, even when I told my mother, who was an exotic dancer, I told her, Mom, I want to be a stand up comic. And she said, okay, just don't forget that you're a woman. And it's like,
Mhm.
how's that going to happen, Mom? I'm getting laughs, and then suddenly I get disoriented. Like, who am I? Where am I? Where's my penis? Oh, I left it in my other backpack. Um, uh, it's, I think that's funny. Some of the ladies are going to get that. Anyways, I experienced terrific sexism, and to be honest, I didn't. I didn't say that I was a lesbian when I first started doing stand up. In San Francisco, there were so many open mics. Robin Williams was starting out, Ellen DeGeneres was starting out, Paula Poundstone was starting out. And I would go I would get like the worst spot, on the open mic, when they were basically closing the restaurant, and I'd still do my little 5 minutes. And it happened to all women. But at this time, a club called Valencia Rose opened up in San Francisco, of course, which was this is when after we lost Harvey Milk, years after we lost Harvey Milk, the assassinations, this club started up, and there was an audience, a queer audience that was hungry to hear us doing the jokes, because gay people had always been the punchline, right? Ridiculing us, mocking us was what stand-up comics, many of them, not all, but many of them were doing. So suddenly I couldn't be gay enough. I couldn't be a woman enough. I couldn't be brown enough for these audiences, these progressive, queer, ally audiences that were coming to the shows. So I was able to circumvent the sexism that was prevalent in comedy clubs. I'm talking about the 80s. And there were LGBT producers, there were events, there was the March on Washington. I performed on the pitcher's mound at Yankee Stadium during the gay games in the 80s. So I actually, by being uncompromising, unapologetic, still a little early for me, unapologetically lesbian, Latina, female, people were like, yes, bring it on. Because I tell you, our audience, our LGBTQIA audience, is the best comedy audience. Who has comedy down better than our community? It's kind of crazy that we gave it to the heteronormative, cis, white, dominant culture. They don't know comedy. We know comedy.
Well,
and so that's right.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, when it comes to comedy, for a lot of times there were many voices not heard. However, I mean, in the 80s, that must have been a really good time to, experience comedy then, especially coming into the 90s. Now for these upcoming shows that you are doing, sounds really exciting. What's the audience in store for?
Well, the audience can go to margagomez.com. That will send you to Eventbrite, and then there'll be this little page. It looks like a little Hulu page, and you'll see 3 different shows. I'm doing it's West Coast time, so I'm doing them at 5 p.m. West Coast time. So East Coast will get it at 8, and you can pick whatever time you want, whichever show you want. The first weekend is a show called Latin Standards, and it's a show about it's about 2 arcs. The story of my father, who came from Cuba, and he had nothing, and he established himself as one of the leading entertainers in the Latino community in the 60s. And then it's my story coming, being in San Francisco. Suddenly our communities of color were hit by big tech, gentrification, and we were pushed out. But at this time in 2012, I started a comedy night at a Latino drag club called Esta Noche, maybe one of the most important all everyday Latino queer club in the universe. And it's a story about my working at that club against the pressures of gentrification and my family of drag queens. That's Latin Standards. The next week is the story I do about my mother, Memory Tricks. And again, like I said, she was a showgirl. I talk about the relationship between her and me. She didn't approve of my masculine vibe because she was hyper femme. So it's a comedy, but it's also emotional. Those first 2 shows are both funny and sad. The last week is called Not Getting Any Younger, and it's about me, a Latina lesbian who lies about my age. because you got to lie about something. There has to be a closet somewhere in my life. So that's a full-on comedy, not getting any younger. And they can just go to margagomez.com and find out about them.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I know the audience looks forward to that, definitely. Marga, what's inspired you and what has been some of your favorite moments for doing comedy for so long?
Um, well, I love stand-up comedy, and I keep at it because it's very healing, especially for people who've been oppressed. I mean, that's kind of where it came up. It came from immigrants, and it still belongs to people who are pushed out of the mainstream. It's a weapon. I mean, it's fun, it's happy, but it's so I think that I have to say, like from the beginning, my father was a comedian, and I would be backstage watching him on stage, listening to the people in our community, people who worked so hard, in factories when I was growing up. And he took the pain away. And I think that's what comedy does. So I saw my father in the 80s. I was inspired by the other gay, lesbian, queer, trans comics who were coming up with me. Um, and also it wasn't just like technically, queer people, it was queer allies. Whoopi Goldberg played in this club, and she started out in the Bay Area. And when I saw her doing comedy, but in the system of a one person show and characters, I realized I think I want to do that because storytelling is a little bit more complicated than just quick one liner, but it kind of sticks to the ribs more than just a joke. And so she kind of inspired me to explore the form of the one person show. You can create an entire film because you work with the audience. You tell them, I'm in New York, I'm in Paris, and the audience sees it. I'm my mother, the audience sees the person. So I love that. I love that. It's just kind of all the fun stuff of comedy, but with a takeaway, with a transformation and a journey. So I would say Whoopi, Lee Tomlin, Richard Pryor, storyteller. All of those people were, the ones that like were up, up, up in the stratosphere. And
Mhm.
I continue to be inspired by so many people, to this day.
Awesome, awesome. That is great to know. I'm so inspired by so many wonderful women as well. So it is great to hear you talk about that and how that inspiration really, helps you and moves you along. I love to hear that. And as you said before, margagomez.com is how everyone can go ahead and, find out more information, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so you can go ahead and follow Marga at the Marga Gomez on Instagram, Marga Gomez on Twitter, and youtube.com/Latina Stream Queens. Marga, thank you so much for joining me today. It
I
has
want to
been,
thank you also for this series and this content and the team that puts this together. It's so
well,
important
listen,
because
Czar is strong. He knows what he is doing. Racing is our fierce face and figurehead. So,
yes, yes,
and I'm glad to be here along with this ride. So, thank you so much, Marga.
my pleasure.
Of
Anytime.
course. And to our viewers, please make sure that you follow and subscribe to all things Marga Gomez. And make sure that you follow and subscribe to all things Team Racine as well. And click around our YouTube channel and check out our other interviews, vlogs, forums, and more. And before I forget, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.